I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to the Insider Insight Show. I'm honored to have you back today, and I'm honored to have our very dear friend Bill Holter join us today. Since the inception of our Operation Freedom platform and radio show over 12 years ago, we have focused on your financial and economic freedom and liberty. The information we have provided, you will never see, hear, read, or experience in the bought-off lamestream fake media such as Fox Business News, CNBS as I call it, Reuters, or Bloomberg. Why? Because they want to strip you of your economic and financial freedom. They are all tentacles of the deep state that are truly committed to the not just the overthrow of your financial resources, but the financial resources of every person on our planet, because, well, that way they get more power, more control, and actually they do quite well financially. There are very few people that have stepped up and have identified and dissected what the globalist syndicate are all about. Why so few? Well, it just comes down to courage is one thing. People do have the analytical ability to do so. But what people lack is courage. And that's exactly what Bill Holter has a tremendous amount of. Courage. For many years, Bill has told you to, and his partner, Jim Sinclair, to get out of the system. In other words, get out of the globalist-directed system and empower yourselves versus the syndicate. Many people have called Bill a conspiracy theorist. Well, it might be conspiracy, but it's conspiracy reality. And reality is about to get a big jolt for those that have, just thought that this was, it would never come to pass in the West. We might see this in Eastern Bloc countries, but we're not going to see this in the West. Well, it is in the West and has been in the West. And thank goodness that Bill Holter has had the courage and the tenacity and the perseverance and the dedication and the sacrifice to lay it all on the line. Now, for those of you not familiar with Bill, after a lengthy career in financial services, Bill retired in 2006, moved his family out of the United States, and then returned in 2011. Currently makes his home in the great state of Texas. He joined Miles Franklin as an associate writer in 2012, posted commentaries there until 2015. He still serves as a precious metals broker at Miles Franklin, Miles, M-I-L-E-S, Franklin, Franklin.com. He is now working, as I mentioned, with the collaboration of the iconic Jim Sinclair and helping to educate and enlightening folks. You can get their work at their website, jsmine, M-I-N-E, set, S-E-T.com. Bottom line, Bill Holter is one of the best forensic economic analysts in the world. He's also one of the most courageous. It's my honor to welcome back our friend Bill Holter. Bill, welcome back to the Insider Insight Show.
Thanks for having me back, Dave.
Okay, Bill, I want to take you back to good old Vlad Lenin. Not John Lennon, but Vlad Lenin. And here's one of his little masterpieces he came up with, which I believe many people believe we're living through right now. Quote, the way to crush the bourgeoisie, the working class, is to grind them between the millstones of taxation and inflation, end quote. Bill, we're getting ground into the ground. Courtesy of good old Vlad Lenin and what he told us would be happening. Only this time, it ain't Vlad Lenin, it's Biden, it's Harris, it's the syndicate. Am I off?
Well, think about the time period that he made that statement. That was right around, it was within 3 to 5 years of when the Federal Reserve was first created. And I mean, you can read G. Edward Griffin's book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, and that lays out exactly what the plan was, and we are now in the end game of that plan. The plan was to get the nation completely indebted and then pull the plug, and here we are. They're at the point now they are pulling the plug, and that's, if you look all over the West is entirely indebted. Years back when I was in college, if any country got to 100% debt to GDP, they were considered at the doorstep or walking through the door of becoming a banana republic. Now look at the whole world. the global GDP is $100 trillion. There's over $350 trillion of debt. So that says that the entire world is a banana republic, and the plan to, indebt the populace and then pull the plug, here we are. I mean, the plug is being pulled. They're raising rates. The Fed says that they're going to shrink their balance sheet. I don't see how they can possibly do that. But I mean, we're going to have another rate hike at the next meeting. The ECB just raised rates for the first time in 11 years today. I mean, basically what they're doing is they're raising rates on an over-leveraged system, and that will create a credit collapse. So you will see and you will feel deflation of assets while living your life, your daily life. You're feeling extreme inflation of the things you need.
And Bill, this is all contrived and this is all willful. This is not incompetence. Am I right in that
Correct.
assessment?
No, you're absolutely correct. I first started writing after I retired in 2006. Back in 2007, toward the end of that year, I wrote that there's no way that the policies that were being put in place could have been done mistakenly. It was all done on purpose. No one could be that stupid. And, I mean, just look back. It's pretty obvious. This is a plan. This is not by mistake.
So paint a picture of the globalist endgame as they create and have created and now will do the final touches on this credit collapse. Paint a picture of where we're going with this credit collapse that has been truly, willfully contrived and implemented by the syndicate.
Right. Okay, well, first understand that the globalists understand that under a complete destruction, people are going to look to their governments for help. Mm-hmm. And it's just the way it always works. And also understand that when credit ceases to flow, when credit collapses, everything in the real world collapses. Now, 100 years ago, that would not have been the case because credit was not so prevalent. But today, everything runs on credit. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what you look at, what you touch, everything that you interact with, everything that you use, every service you use, uses credit for that to work. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about your power company or your water company. They use credit. Think about the loaf of bread in the store. It takes 10 or 12 or more uses of credit to get that wheat from the field into the store. So what I'm getting at is your everyday life, once credit does collapse, once credit becomes unavailable, then the real economy shuts down. And I mean, you can look at the sanctions that the U.S. has been putting on Russia and the supply chain problems that's caused. We have supply chain problems in the real world already without credit ceasing. But once credit ceases, everything will stop. And basically, you're going to be on your own. You're going to it will become every man for himself.
And so, Bill, when a credit collapse occurs, and of which it's occurring right now, it's almost like a slow motion train wreck, which is going to speed up. People go, okay, okay. So number one thing I have to do is I cannot turn to government for a solution because they are the problem. They want me to turn to them. Just look at what we've done over the past 3 years with this whole COVID goat rodeo, right? So no, you're not gonna turn. So the first thing I have to do is not turn to the government. Okay, So I'm not doing that. Okay, I have to turn internally to protect myself. And how do I do? What do I do? How do I do that?
Well, you want to become as self-sufficient as you possibly can. You want to be able to, if the world were to stop tomorrow, how are you going to generate electricity? How are you going to get a source of clean water? What about your food? Gasoline, just everything that you use on a day-to-day basis. Now, how long will the system be down? I don't know. Will it be down 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years? I have no idea. There's no way to know. But you just want to become as self-sufficient as you possibly can. You want your capital out of their system. You want to be able to guard your home, your family, your assets. So basically, you want to be able to be your own police department, your own central bank, your own medical facility, your own grocery store. And I mean, it's a daunting task, but just try to do the best you can. And you mentioned over the last 3 years, it's really been over the last 14 years that people have relied on government, because the financial system has been on life support ever since 2008. And as I just mentioned a little bit earlier, today's the first time in 11 years that the European Central Bank has brought their overnight interest rate, they raised it 50 basis points from zero. So, I mean, that has been zeroed out for 11 years.
And being your own everything, including being your own bank. So when I hear that, I think, okay, be my own bank. That means the paper money that it doesn't have any backing to it is not where my store of value is. If I go historically, the store of value are in hard, real assets. And in particular, at least the way I look at it, and please tell me if I'm wrong, I look at gold and silver as a means of if you will, getting out of the system, and a means of being my own bank. Now, is that faulty judgment?
No, that's absolutely correct. If you think about when you deposit money into a bank, you're really not depositing it. The way the law reads now is you are lending your money to the bank. You're really not a depositor, you're a creditor, or you're a lender. So when you put money into a bank, you've got two risks. One is that your bank shuts down, your bank fails. And FDIC, by the way, now has in writing, there will not be any bailouts, there will be bail-ins. So what that means is they're going to take credit or capital to try to save themselves. So that's the first risk. And then the second risk is your money in the bank is in dollars. Now, if you're in another country, it could be euros, it could be pounds, it could be yen, what have you. But understand that all of these fiat currencies are debt-based. And debt is the problem. Too much debt is the problem. So you're owning a currency that when the credit markets do completely collapse, the currencies will collapse also because they are supported by credit. Now, gold and silver, they are real monies. They've been real monies for 5,000 years. And the way I look at it is they're God's money versus man's money. Gold and silver cannot default. That's the reason you want gold and silver, because we are going into a global default, global bankruptcy, whatever you want to call it. And historically, when bad times are on their way, you want to move to cash. The problem today is if you move to cash in a bank or with a treasury bill or what have you, you're moving into a credit-based asset when credit is the problem. So to avoid the credit problem, to avoid default, bankruptcy, etc., the way you save your savings should be in gold and silver because they cannot default.
So, Bill, people are saying, okay, I've done that. I got to do more of that. However, When I look at the price when I just turn on the tube and look at Fox Business News and the ticker, or I go to a website, when I look at the price, it's a paper price, but a price of gold and silver, it actually was higher 3 months ago, significantly higher 3 months ago than it is now. Why is that? Why is that? Because I feel as though, holy cow, I did all these things to protect myself, and when I look at the price, it should be skyrocketing, and in fact, it's down significantly over 3 months. Educate our listeners, because many people are upset, and not beyond upset, are I'm not going to say despondent,
They're
but
panicking.
What?
People are panicking. People are scared.
Yeah. So educate our listeners on
befuddled.
Okay, so educate our listeners on why that's the case and why they should not rely on paper prices of gold and silver.
Okay, well, let me start with the conclusion first.
Okay.
And the conclusion is, when all is said and done, you are going to measure your net worth in ounces, as opposed to dollars or euros or yen or what have you. So that's the conclusion. When all is said and done, it's going to matter how many ounces you have. As far as, if you go back 3 months, I guess it was 3 months back, if you look at a chart, you'll see that the high on gold and the high on silver this year coincided with just like a day before the nickel market blew up. Nickel blew up. It went up 250% in 2 trading days, because there were naked shorts that could not cover. You had a major investor out of China that was going to default. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And what the COMEX did, or not COMEX, I'm sorry, I believe it was LME. What they did was they canceled all the trades for that second day. So anybody who won didn't win, and anybody who lost didn't lose. They just canceled, they novated all the trades, which is expressly illegal, but they did it anyway. So going back to those 2 days, gold and silver made their highs right then and there. And from that point forward, you've seen gold and silver go down. Well, first off, I guess it was about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, Pam and Ross Martins from Wall Street on Parade did a story on JP Morgan and Citibank that their precious metals derivatives exploded almost tenfold for the first half of the year. So that tells you how it was done. What happened was, that's $500 billion worth of derivatives, new derivatives that came into the market, and basically to dilute the price. And understand that even at today's pricing, total global production of silver is less than 20 billion. And I think you're looking at what? Couple $100 billion for gold. So the amount of derivatives just in the first half dwarf the amount of global production of gold and silver. So that's the first thing as far as how it was done. Now, after the nickel market blew up, they had to put a cap, and we know that they've put a cap on it, because out of Ralston Benham's mouth, and he is the head of the CFTC, he's come right out and said, we had to tamp the price of silver. Otherwise, we would have had a problem. Well, that's totally illegal. The guy should be in jail. They should all be in jail.
They should.
But the point being, the reason why they have to tamp the price, they have to suppress the price, is because silver is such a small market. Like I said, less than $20 billion of total production for a year's time. If silver were to blow up and you woke up tomorrow morning and saw it at 35 bucks, and then the next day it trades up, hits 50, and then it goes through 50. If silver were to explode, gold will follow. There's no doubt about it. And the problem, if gold follows, then what that does is it throws into question all of the credit, all of the sovereign debt worldwide, because gold is the direct competitor to all of these fiat currencies all over the world. So what they've had to do is prove to you with a paper price, gold and silver bad, dollars, euros, yen, pounds good. So it's basically, it is a psyop is what it is. And just understand that if you're purchasing gold and silver now, you're buying it, you're being subsidized by the powers that be, because they've been suppressing the price. And I mean, think about it. We've had high inflation for the last year, yet gold and silver are down. So everything on the planet costs more except for gold and silver. It's an impossibility. And think about this. If you look around you watch your sources of information, and you're seeing lie after lie after lie after lie every single day. Why are the prices of gold and silver? Why would you assume gold and silver pricing is correct and not a lie, but everything else in the world is a lie?
And there's a dichotomy between the price of physical gold and silver and paper gold and silver. Educate our listeners on what that premium is now to have physical gold. Because I tell people, if you're really upset about the paper price of gold and silver, call a dealer and find out how much it costs to buy physical gold and physical silver. And because there's a huge differential right now, Bill. Educate our listeners on that, what that differential is and the like.
Yeah, even if you look at the poorest form of ownership, which are bars. When I say poorest, that is the cheapest way to buy silver, or the cheapest way to buy gold is to buy bars. It is the poorest form because think about they're the easiest to counterfeit. How are you going to use a 10-ounce bar or a 100-ounce bar or what have you? So the utility is not there. But even with silver, a 100-ounce bar, you're going to pay $3 or $4 over spot. So you're not under $20 even with silver bars. Then you've got generic rounds, you've got foreign sovereigns, and then you've got U.S. mint coins. And in silver, there's only two types of U.S. mint coins. It's either the pre-1965 dimes, quarters, half dollars, and silver dollars, or silver eagles. And I mentioned to you a couple weeks back, I was fortunate enough to place a $50 million order for a customer who wanted silver and gold. And the plan was to buy as much or use as much of that 50 million to purchase silver and see how much we could get. Well, it took $27 million, and we basically cleaned up every bag of junk, all the half dollars, all the silver dollars, and all the silver eagles in the U.S. Now, yeah, you can go to a dealer and find a couple thousand. I can just tell you, Miles Franklin, who is one of the 23 direct dealers to the U.S. Mint, as of yesterday, and I don't even know if these are spoken for, but we have a shipment coming in 7 to 8 weeks out of silver eagles. So if you call Miles Franklin, we don't have any backdated eagles, and we've got, as I understood yesterday, 15,000 eagles 7 to 8 weeks out, and I don't even know if those are spoken for. But that's a ham sandwich. I mean, you're talking about $500,000. So there's the supply is not there. Now add to that, 2 weeks ago, the U.S. Mint came out and said that they are going to reduce their production of gold eagles by 50% for the rest of the year. They didn't say why, but you and I know why, because they can't get the blanks, they can't source the metal, and so their production's going to go down. And magically, the premium on gold eagles has increased just over 2 weeks, about 3%. And I can tell you that you're not going to be able to find a silver eagle anywhere under $13 over spot. So now you're talking about $18, $19 silver with a $13 premium. You're looking at 70% premium.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the price of silver?
Right.
And I mean, junk silver, you're looking at $8, $8.50 over spot. What's the price of silver? And the point being, for an American, those are the best forms of silver to own. So if you want a poor form that's not really usable, you could buy 100-ounce bars at say $22. But then at a later date, when you go to sell those or go to use those, they become it was a mistake. You want to buy the best quality that you can when you can. And I've said for years that when this thing ends, gold and silver will go into hiding, and no amount of dollars will be able to buy it for you.
So, in your career, Bill, when you mention these premiums, where does this fit in? Some people, well, that's a high premium, but it's probably been a high premium for a long period of time. These, tell me if I'm wrong, but the premiums now are on the high end of at least what I've experienced over 20, 25 years of watching the gold and silver market. Am I off on that assessment?
On gold, yes, they're on the high end. They're not on the high end yet. They're starting to move for the numismatics. The high end on the numismatics was like an 80, 90, 100% premium over spot. And that was back in 2010 when there was fear of confiscation. Those are collectibles and theoretically could not be confiscated. With silver, this is about as high of a premium over spot on a percentage basis as I've ever seen in my life. We did have a period of time, I think it was in 2008 or 2009, and then again in 2013, we had $9 paper silver, and you couldn't buy any silver
right.
under $15.
Right.
So that was a 60% premium then. And I mean, with Eagles, you got to be today, you got to be looking at what, 70, 75% premium.
So, Bill, what do you?
And I mean, where does it stop? Does it
Right.
stop at 100% premium? And then all of a sudden people say, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense now. But what it tells you is the paper price is a joke.
And the question people have then, Bill, is, okay, so these criminals are running this operation on the paper side. How much longer can they run this? I mean, if we're in this credit crisis, how much longer? Because there are people that look at these commitment of trader reports every week, and they say, hey, the big boys are ducking out of their short positions, and they're unloading their short positions on the little players and stuff. The question is, how long can they continue this criminal operation with manipulation of the paper markets? There is a finite end to it, isn't there, Bill?
Well, yeah, the finite end to it is when people who have contracts for delivery of gold and delivery of silver don't get delivered upon, then it's game over. Mm-hmm. This is going on, like you said, it's going on for years and years. I mean, you can see that there's 300 paper ounces that represent one single ounce. It's a game of musical chairs where there's hundreds of people playing the game, but there's only one chair. Now, what sets it off? Is the failure to deliver because somebody big steps up and buys and doesn't get delivered on, or a bunch of people step up, or a bunch of institutions step up and don't get delivered on? I highly doubt it will be a nation, because if a sovereign ever did that, then that's a declaration of war. In my opinion, more likely it will be credit actually collapsing defaults. And we may be watching that right now with the bank run in China. There's a serious bank run in China. I mean, they brought tanks out into the streets. Bank runs are funny things. It's like a herd of cattle. Once you get them spooked, you're not stopping them. And it spreads from the back of the herd to the front of the herd. And so in my opinion, the end game will be some type of credit event that spooks people out of the complacency that the central banks are under control, because the central banks are going to totally lose control. And then what is your alternative? The only exit is gold and silver, and they will overrun that market. And I guess a good analogy, what they've been doing, tamping and suppressing the price of gold and silver, is what they've done is they've put a cloak over the exit sign. They don't want people to think, I should move into gold and silver to get out of the way of this storm, this train, whatever that's coming. So what they're doing is they're trying to suppress sentiment to divert capital from gold and silver. And judging by the phone calls, emails that we've all been getting, it's working. People are scared.
Well, and then you had good old Jay. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention one of the things I've said to people over the last week or 2 weeks. They're like, "Oh my gosh, gold and silver, they're down, blah blah blah." I asked the question: if you inherited $1 million today,
it's a great question,
and you just wanted to be as safe as you possibly could, what would you do with that money today? You'd put it in gold and silver, the same thing you did years ago for the same reasons.
It's a brilliant question, because it really gets to the heart of the matter. What's the store of value?
Right.
Is it worthless paper?
Exactly.
Or is it something that has intrinsic value, that has had intrinsic value for thousands of years? So now we have...
Right, and
go ahead.
It's not just gold and silver.
Right.
As far as a store of value. Anything real is a store of value that doesn't spoil. Guns and ammo, there's utility to that. There's value to that. Long-term food. In other words, what I'm getting at is moving away from the credit game, moving away, because the whole system relies on credit. It is not, gold and silver are monies, but moving capital out of fiat currency and into real stuff is a good idea, except for real estate. And the reason real estate, I leave that out, is because real estate is priced today because credit has been used to push the prices up. Now what you're looking at, interest rates have exploded. They basically doubled. So what you qualify for, or if you own real estate, what the potential buyers qualify for is much less based on their income or cash flow versus the interest rates. We just saw that mortgage applications are the lowest they've been in, I forget how long, but in a long, long time. Mortgage applications have crashed. And just like any Ponzi scheme, if there's not new money coming into it, it collapses. And that's really what real estate was, or is a Ponzi scheme based on credit. The house that you grew up in with your parents, Dave, was probably what? $25,000, $35,000 house. Now it's $500,000, but it's the same house.
True.
So is it a better house or is it a worse currency? It's a currency that's been collapsing in front of your face for years and years, and people thought it was good because I'm getting rich, my house is worth, whatever.
It's a house of cards. Pun intended.
It is, the whole thing. Exactly.
So, so then you throw this at it, Bill, talking about a collapsing currency. China and Russia want to replace the U.S. dollar with BRICS currencies. This from Epoch Times' Antonio Garasfil. BRICS members call for cross-border payments in BRICS currencies to challenge the U.S. dollar. They recommended that the bloc, quote, expand to national currency settlements and lending to counter the U.S. weaponization of the dollar. To add fuel to the fire, these countries want to back, heaven forbid, back their currencies with hard assets, a basket of hard assets such as gold and silver. Bill, I read this, and you add a ongoing credit collapse with this, and to me, Bill, if you aren't your own bank and you aren't protecting your own back with hard assets, you're in huge trouble, Bill. And I mean imminently, when you start adding headlines that are starting to come out from behind the curtain about what China and Russia are doing.
Right. Basically, it's turn out the lights, the party's over.
Yeah.
And the party consisted of the U.S., the West's strategy of something for nothing. Yeah. In other words, the U.S., we've imported stuff for years and years and years, and we've shipped dollars in return. Well, in that case, we got something for nothing. And the dollars are nothing because we've already seen many times the Fed, Treasury, they can create as many dollars as they wish for free, costs nothing. So what the world is saying, and led by Russia and led by China, we don't want to do this anymore. We don't want something. We don't want to get nothing for our something. We want something for something. We want, if we're giving you something real, we want to get something real in return. And that's what they're modeling their currencies on, is backing them with something real.
Educate our listeners, Bill, on how they can get in touch with you, how they can follow your efforts, how they can contact you. As I mentioned, you're being a trader. How can TRADER, Precious Metals Trader, educate our listeners how they can get in touch with you and follow you along on a daily basis, because it's really something they need to do. You provide a tremendous amount of information.
You can go to www.jsmineset.com. If you want to reach me directly, my email address is bholter@hotmail.com.
Bill, I'd like to thank you for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. Your perseverance, dedication, and sacrifice have helped millions of people protect themselves and put them in a position where their back is actually covered, because they have decided to listen to your sage wisdom, and they have decided to become their own water supply, their own food supply, their own protection, their own bank. Very few people, Bill, have had the courage, the perseverance, dedication, and sacrifice to put other people's interests ahead of their own, and provided that very important safety and protection message. I thank you, Bill. You are a very, you shouldn't be, but you are. You are very unique. You put other people's interests ahead of your own, because and I won't go into depth on this, you get tremendous grief. You get tremendous heat. You get tremendous blowback for telling people what they need to know, and it's not what the syndicate wants them to know or hear. And I thank you, Bill, for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. And folks, I'd like to thank you. As we close every show, my dad's favorite statement: dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.